nimble, stay dandy, baby. After 200 episodes, the Boruto anime series is continuing to move along at a pretty good pace, and this is certainly an episode to get really excited about. But before we jump into the review, guys, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this. Hit the like button if you're liking my content, and of course, make sure to check out my Patreon. You guys who are making those monthly donations, I just cannot thank you enough for that. But let's go ahead and dive into the latest episode of Boruto Naruto Next Generations, which ended with a really nice stinger at the end of the last episode, with Kawaki making his way into Boruto's room, where suddenly he was met by the giant fiery image of Kurama, the nine-tailed fox, one of the original pieces of the 10 tails of course, the very much hated Kaguya Otsutsuki. And Kurama has always been, I think, one of the coolest characters from the entire series. I mean, just look at him. He's a big, giant, monstrous fox. He's really cool. He commands a lot of respect. He's also very frightening overall. But of course, that's always been the most interesting thing about his character. While he comes across as a massive kaiju-like beast, there is a living soul within the monster. And it's something that's been really sort of brought out of the character since the beginning of the show. And you really get to see a lot of that in this episode right here, of getting to see how far he as a character has come and how he can have a massive influence on those around him. You can't judge a book by its cover. You can't look at a monster and just think it's there to eat you. It might have something a little more important to say. And that's basically what most of this episode is devoted to, as Kurama talks to Kawaki, telling him basically that he's reminded greatly of a younger Naruto, and basically going through the story that we've heard many, many times before about Naruto when he was younger, about how he was ostracized by the other villagers, about how this demon creature was planted inside of his body by his very own parents, who were killed by Kurama himself. And you get to see that this ends up having something of a massive effect on Kawaki, as he finally starts to see like the parallels between both of them, the fact that they've both been implanted with these powers, which make them incredibly dangerous, and it's something that they're going to have to rein in. But again, I really love the fact that Kurama, extends the fact that he is not a weapon. He's not just some sort of convenient thing for Naruto to lose when he's actually like in a battle. It's something that completely could take over him and make him lose control. And it wasn't until he got a firmer understanding of Kurama and who he was as an actual character outside of just being a big destructive monster that the relationship finally started to come together. And this is something that really manages to rock Kawaki pretty hard, as he really does realize that he and Naruto have so much in common with one another, especially with his very tumultuous past with Jigen, who has beaten him to absolute death near the brink of almost being killed, and all because he has been transformed into a vessel for this weapon. And that's very similar to what happened to Naruto. So it's a really important moment, and you also have to reflect on the fact that whenever Kurama talks for an extended period of time, it's usually pretty important. And it's rare that only so many characters actually have the ability to communicate with him, so that moment between him and Kawaki was honestly a really big moment, and you get to see that sort of what like fuels him throughout most of the rest of the episode as he continues to train with Naruto and everyone else, and even starts spilling his guts about his past with Jigen, something that I think was really important, was sort of like the big moment that started to bring both Kawaki and Boruto together, as they realized that if they're going to get through this, they're going to have to get stronger, they're going to have to work together, and they're going to have to take him down. This was also a really powerful moment, as Boruto finally referred to Kawaki as his brother. They're basically brothers in arms at this point, and you really get to see the bond forming between these two characters, and that combined with the amazing artwork and the animation and the atmosphere of the scene, I thought was honestly one of the most powerful moments of the entire episode. But this episode also does a great job of starting to build up some of the hype of things that's going to be happening later. First and foremost, we get to see that Sai is talking with Shikamaru, and he lets him know that they know that Jigen is officially the leader of Kara, and that apparently they exist in this other weird dimension, and the only way to access it is, of course, through space-time jutsu. And of course, the most convenient person for that is going to be Sasuke with the power of his Rinnegan Eye. And I didn't think they were going to even show any of it in this episode, but no, they immediately went to Sasuke, who has made his way to this Otsutsuki Otsutsuki dimension, which is just weird and desolate. It's got all these like massive walls with artwork all over them, which are sort of a reflection of the Otsutsuki themselves. If you actually really pay attention to the look and design of the Otsutsuki, you can sort of see that planted all over the walls. And if you want to be completely spoiled, they're definitely going to show some of that stuff in the preview for the next episode. One shot in particular, I really wish they hadn't have shown for non-manga readers, but still, this moment right here is just chills-inducing to say the least. I mean, like I said, pay attention to the designs of the walls, and you can actually see sort of like the weird horns that are on all of the Otsutsuki members. So, like, you're going to be able to see Momoshiki and Kenshiki's things there, and you can even see some that are completely destroyed, and maybe even a few other familiar ones. But this is some really important material, and it's going to tie into what the next future arc is going to be all about. But it also looks like they're also getting ready to create their other brand new storyline involving Boro and his cultists. Again, this is stuff that did not exist in the manga version. But man, I'm eating it up. I'm just truly loving everything about this, especially because I just don't know what they're going to do with his character. But essentially, Boro is kind of like a fanatical fan of the Otsutsukis, and he feels that by bringing them back, they're going to be bringing back the infinite Tsukuyomi, and they're going to completely change the world, and he's basically trying to brainwash all of these people within this cult. For what purpose remains to be seen, as this is all completely brand new material for both manga and anime watchers, and it's really exciting stuff. Cannot wait to see the rest of it. What's the rundown on this episode of Boruto Naruto Next Generations? So, I really liked this episode. Like I said, I think all the dramatic moments at the beginning with Kurama and Kawaki were handled really well. It seems like they expanded on some of that stuff a little bit more than they did in the manga, but I thought that it was a really great job, if only to see Kawaki break down a little bit. That moment where he actually started to shed a tear, I thought was really powerful. Again, they continue, and I use this word a lot, to humanize the character as the entire arc is going on, and I care way more about Kawaki than I actually do in the manga. In the manga, it almost feels like manga junk food. I read it, I'm done with it, that's it. I feel like every moment that Kawaki's had in the series thus far has made him a way more interesting character, and it's moments like this with Kurama and him interacting with the teammates, and that nice little cool brother moment between him and Boruto that I thought was really cool. I didn't even speak about the fact that Sarada was continuing to do her Chidori training, which was also pretty solid in and of itself. Just a small moment to show that she's getting a little stronger as time is going on. Again, new material that's really cool, that really does work into everything. And then, of course, there's Sasuke going to the other dimension, which, again, like I said, didn't even think they were going to get to it in this episode. Like I said, if you can stand it, don't watch the preview for the next episode. If you've already watched it, well, you have a pretty good idea of what could be potentially happening in the next episode, especially when they give away one of the biggest shocking twists about what's going to be happening in this arc. But as for the Boro stuff, that's what I'm most interested in. That's the thing that's got me most excited for what's going to be happening next, as I loved how they expanded on Victor's storyline, and I can't wait to see how Boro's storyline is going to continue and what characters are actually going to be involved in it. If they're going to create this brand new conflict, which you've never seen before with this character, and I think it'll be a great way to not only build him up, but maybe even create some brand new villains for this storyline, as it's very obvious that he has a certain group of cultists which seem to be following him that were introduced in the last episode, and they very well could be just as interesting, having their own backstories and abilities, and I can't wait to see how this is all going to tie into the future of the series. I know there's a lot of people out there who will not like this stuff and they just want to get to the manga-only material, but this is the type of stuff that honestly I think I look forward to the most while watching the Boruto anime series, because I've read the manga. I know what's going to happen in the story, but it's these little moments that I can't predict, and not knowing what's going to happen, and of course the expansion of characters and their personalities, that I think is great. Boro in the manga version is basically just a lot of muscle with some really cool abilities, and that's mostly all there is to him. By giving him this whole cultist angle, it completely changes the way that I view the character, and that's remarkable. It made me care about him and see him as more of like a threat, and he was a threat in the manga, and trust me, he will be a threat, but the anime version is just doing a great job of making him seem so much more scary and conniving and cunning. So yeah, great stuff there. Production value-wise, another pretty good-looking episode. I particularly loved the after-training sunset moment between Boruto and with Kawaki. I thought that was really solid stuff. Kurama just looked cool. He always looks cool. That's just the way he works, even when he's a giant floating fiery-looking head. There's something intimidating about him. I will say that one thing that's always annoyed me, and this is like in 1,000 other anime when it comes to like giant monster-type creatures, I really hate the fact that when they talk, they just sort of open their mouth once and they have like a full sentence and then they just close their mouth. that's happened a number of times in the series already, but there's also been a few moments I know where Kurama has actually, like, moved his lips with everything that he is actually saying. But I don't know, it's just an anime thing. You can see it in so many different other series, like, where the monsters just, like, slightly open their mouth and they say a full sentence. I don't know, maybe it's just supposed to drive home the otherworldly fact that they're not communicating like normal people, but it's just something that's always bugged me. It doesn't affect the score of this episode, though. That's just me just talking about it and wanting to get that kind of, stuff out there. Get this monkey off my back, if you will. Otherwise, I thought that this was a pretty solid episode of the series. And again, like I said, it's got me just as excited for the manga material and just for all the new stuff that's going on with Boro and his cult group. So yeah, I'm pumped up to see what's next. I'm going to give this episode a 4 out of 5. Another solid, emotional, and nice build-up episode of the series as we move forward into the darker parts of the Kara arc. So before you guys leave today, make sure to tell me what you thought about the latest episode of the series. And that's pretty much it. I'll see you guys next time. And as always, stay down there, baby.